My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of the I see. Some didn't have the time and had too much to do to get caught up in any revolution. Some didn't have the strength, had way too much to lose. Should their mission fail and lead to retribution, but they still gave all they had to see a nation born, a land in freedom clad, on earth a clear new morn, when liberty and justice reigned on earthly sod, and every precious human right was seen by all to be ordained by nature's God. Some didn't have the wealth, had just too little means to contribute to the righteous insurrection. But within their souls they knew when the bell of freedom rings, we can conquer all and turn the world in a new direction. So they still gave all they had to see a nation born, a land in freedom clad, on earth a bright new morn, when liberty and justice reigned on earthly sod, and every precious human right was known by all to be ordained by nature's God. Today we live in times when true faith is under siege, and common sense and simple decency have both given way to what's PC. We let the racial whores and poverty pimps rake in millions based on mythology, as they forever stoke the fires of envy and strife among folks that once were free. The ruling class elite and their self-appointed propaganda ministry abolish our founding documents without a single vote from you and me. The time has come in this great land, it's plain for all to see, to take our country back and once again set the captives free. So do we give it all we have to see our nation saved and make the sacrifice? Do we for freedom yearn? Do we defeat the force of destruction setting us aflame? Or do we just sit idly by in a comfort zone, apathetically, while America burns? Do we extinguish the evil torch setting fire to the USA? Or do we just stay on the sideline as they destroy our home in our apathy and watch it burn?
Well, happy 4th of July almost. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my voiceover weekly stew. I am Troy W. Hudson, the voiceover with personality. We are actually live this time. I figured out the glitch, and it wasn't my software. It was a permission setting deep, buried really deep in Facebook permissions. I figured it out. So now as I look up at my camera, I'm looking out to you, I'm looking at the numbers, and I see that we are live in red, white, and blue. Wrote that on the fly. You're welcome. You can use it. How are you folks doing? I am so excited to be here. I know a lot of you are excited about the 4th of July weekend. This voiceover weekly stew is going to be mostly dedicated to the theme of celebrating America. I'll be talking a little bit about my experience in the military, because you can't separate 4th of July. I mean, you can't take out military from 4th of July. I mean, that's men and women fought and died for our freedoms. So you cannot ignore that aspect. And for me, that's really where my roots go as far as why I feel the way I do about this country. We are so blessed. I am so blessed to be able to live here, to work here, to build a business here with what I'm doing, sitting in my padded room. Extremely fortunate, extremely blessed. And it is not by my doing, it is by the grace of God, and it is by simply being here at this time and place, being able to do what I'm doing with the technology that I have at my disposal. I mean, good grief. I'm sitting in my house in a padded room with a microphone. You can't see it in the frame right now, but just out of frame is my phone that I'm going to use later as a camera. I'm beaming out to planet Earth, for anybody that cares. And the technology is just, it astounds me. I never get old. I'm old. Maybe that's why it astounds me. It never gets old, or it always astounds me. That's what I was trying to say. When I think about the technology that we have at our fingertips. And so, assuming that the internet doesn't break down here and everything is working right, I want to step you through some things that I've done over the past, probably, it's dating back to about 3 decades now. A little history before we jump in. Hey, if I reminded everybody to bring a side dish, please, if you have one, if it's lunchtime for you, dig in. If you're watching this on the replay, grab some tater salad, some macaroni salad, some burnt burgers or hot dogs. Cookout food, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody loves it. We even have vegetarian versions of that. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. Tofu, we have better solutions than that. Don't go there. Anyway, see if this click works. It worked. Okay. I want to take you through a brief history of my connection and my love for this country, America. And if you hear that panting or snoring, it's one of the golden retrievers is just off camera here. And he's decided to come in. Watson is his name. I can't show you because I've got everything tied up right now. But Watson's over here snoring through this whole thing. He is a faithful, captive audience member, and I appreciate him. So anyhow, way back in 1983, I joined the U.S. Army thanks to my stepfather, Jack Bradford, who was a U.S. Army recruiter. And I actually joined in 82. I went to basic training at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. Oddly enough, I'm just down the road from there now, is where I live. But I joined initially as a U.S. Army reservist, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just kind of put one toe in the water, basically did the basic, survived that, went to one school that I thought was safe, quote unquote safe, and then I got out, went back into the regular workforce post high school, because I really didn't know if I wanted to go to college or anything, and I couldn't figure out what direction I wanted to go. But every 2 weeks and 2 weeks in the summer, I had a gig where I was making money as an Army reservist. And so that lasted for about 6-8 months after I got back, and then I was like, I need direction. What does the Army have, Jack, that I could look at? And he said, the Army has what's called the Radio, TV, Broadcast Journalism course, where it's open to all branches of the service, or it was at the time. And at the time, I think it was called a 71 Romeo, which is a military occupational specialty. And It ended up becoming a 46 Romeo. I always liked the name of that, 46 Romeo. What do you do? I'm a 46 Romeo. Yeah. Anyway, that meant that I was being trained to be a radio, TV, broadcast journalist, which meant I got experience doing production. They taught me all kind of things like how not to be awkward in front of the camera. Some of it stuck, some of it didn't. But then again, I had a teleprompter back then. Anyway, so I sunk my teeth into that. I loved it. And my first assignment out of the gate, mind you, I was thinking a glamorous European assignment or maybe even Pacific, a Korean assignment. That's where you went in those days if you were a military broadcaster. That's where you went. I got assigned to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Now, I love Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I spent almost 6 years there from actually about 5 years, from 84, after I got out of school, up until mid-89. I met my wife there doing a moonlighting job, and I also had two babies she had the babies. We had two babies at Fort Bragg while we lived there. So it has a lot of rich memories for me. It was just the kind of assignment that it's not the kind of assignment that a broadcast journalist is looking for. However, I was with the 4th Psychological Operations Group. They had nothing for me to do, basically, at the time in 84, 85. So they sent me across post on a special duty assignment with the 18th Airborne Corps Headquarters Public Affairs Office. And they were starting up this TV show, and they had a radio station. And so I was able to sink my teeth into, learn from some amazing people, and just run just as far as I could with production and live radio and television editing and television production, writing, on camera work, just about everything you can think of. What I want to share with you first off goes way back to 1986. Now, this was me. This was what I did in the U.S. Army from 84 to almost into 84 through part of 86. And so I'm going to share this screen with you. Now I'm unmuted. Okay. Now, when I share this, I'll mute myself, obviously. But here is what I did in the U.S. Army. This was around 1986.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Dragon's Eye. I'm Army PFC Troy Hudson. Coming up on the show, a report on cadence calling, a story on the post-boxing championships, and some information you might be able to use. First, I had a chance to go out and observe several hundred engineers out at MacArthur Lake involved in some intense training. They came from as far away as Fort Campbell, Kentucky and Fort Stewart, Georgia to participate in some of the most demanding engineering training anywhere in the Army. Some 450 soldiers from 4 engineer battalions gathered recently for a week of bridge building exercises that both challenged and enhanced the knowledge of these troops. The training site, being the area surrounding and including MacArthur Lake, featured 5 different bridge configurations for the engineers to construct. 4 fixed span bridges on land and 1 water float bridge, plus an abundance of classes on bridge construction and actual setup of MGBs, or medium girder bridges. First Lieutenant Schneck, leader in the 264th Engineer Company, MGB, 20th Engineer Brigade, explained the reason for the extensive week-long training.
The point of this training is to cross-train some of the combat engineers and combat heavy units in bridge. It's part of their MOS training, and this is the first year they've done this. They run Bridge X over in Europe regularly. It's the first time they've tried it here at Bragg. It teaches them much more the technical skills required for putting in the bridge. You can't put in a bridge and fight at the same time. Somebody else has to give you your security while you put in the bridge.
These soldiers got an opportunity to train in an environment they don't often see, but for most of them, they got a lot of good out of it.
I've learned a lot more on teaching other people than I did just build it myself, because when you build it yourself, you're more or less on 1 or 2 different parts of the bridge. When you instruct it, you get a chance to go all through everything. Myself learned, that's how much I've learned.
Well, what our sergeant in charge of here at the site has said that he's got a lot of feedback from the troops. The commander has got some feedback and said that they got a lot out of it, something different. They didn't hear anything doing like this. a lot of this bridging is new to them, and they've really enjoyed it.
And not only did the troops get a chance to construct bridges themselves, but they also got an opportunity to transport across these bridges that were used in Vietnam, known as field expedient cable bridges. The cable bridge being just one of many obstacles the engineers faced during the week. Certainly the most combat-oriented training they went through involved an attack by rubber raft that allowed safe passage for equipment, supplies, and people by way of a float bridge. A smoke boat goes out first, lays out a smoke screen for a 15-man assault boat and a float bridge, concealing both from noticeable movement. As soon as the landing is completed, the soldiers move on to land and set up perimeters and secure the landing area. For many of these soldiers, it was the first time they'd been through such extensive training. And for some veteran Army engineers, it proved to be of great benefit as well.
A lot of this training, most people here, even as a 12 Charlie, as I am a crewman or bridge sergeant, you never see. I've been here, I've been in the Army roughly 11 years, and this is my first unit to work with the Daily Bridge or the MGB. I've been strictly ribbon bridge or M4T6.
So you look forward to having more training like this?
Yes.
And to the younger troops, what they got out of this bridge training is irreplaceable.
Learn quite a lot from it, and I believe it'll be very helpful in the future.
Wow. That takes me way back. That was 1986, 34 years ago. That's what I was doing as a U.S. Army, at the time, private first class. Eventually, I exited in 1989 as a sergeant and worked with some amazing people. I want to share a picture of the unit I was with from 1986 to 1989. A lot of familiar faces there, to me anyway, and a lot of faces I miss. That was around 86. The Strategic Dissemination Company, first, let me get it all right, the 1st Special Operations Command, 4th Psychological Operations Group, Strategic Dissemination Company, Media Production Platoon. How do I remember that after 34 years? Anyway, so from the Dragon's Eye, that excerpt you saw, the video clip, to brag, actually, the PSYOP group building a multi-million-dollar production facility that rivaled or was copied after, I believe, the 1984 Seoul Olympics. I might have that mixed up. It might have been another Olympics, but I think it was the 84 Olympics. They basically used the same equipment. So it was an amazing time. I grew to appreciate so much the teaching. Those civilians you see in the background there actually came and taught us how to use all the new equipment, the new cameras, state-of-the-art. But at that time, there were tape machines, 3/4-inch tape machines. Beta was just coming out at that time, if you know what that's all about. So lots of good folks in that picture, and lots of good memories, of course, too. I want to bring on a couple of comments. Sorry about that. Andrew, thank you, sir. University of Florida in Gainesville. Yeah, it was an exciting time to do stuff like that. James, you were crew chief on the mobile assault bridges in 74, 75. That's cool, man. Thank you for your service. Thank you very much for your service. What I want to share with you now is what I did some years later. Now, this is not 4th of July, but it definitely is founding father kind of content. From about 1990 to 2012, primarily I was a video editor, more from like 2000 to 2012. And I worked with some amazing clients. And a lot of times the group I worked with would just kind of let me go hog wild. Just kind of gave me the creative reins and let me do a lot of stuff. I did a little bit of voiceover, but primarily it was video editing and some After Effects animation, if you're familiar with that. Now, what they did allow me to do, they let me carry this particular project I'm about to show you. I think it's early 2000s. It's called The Founding Feathers. And it was a play on U.S. Constitution Day, and I believe it was done for the National Institute of Education. I believe it was intended to show at a lot of inside schools by the Education Department to educate kids in a fun, animated way on the U.S. Constitution and how it began And the whole theme was the Founding Feathers is what you hear of, but who's responsible for writing all those documents? Why, it had to be the Founding Feathers. Before you listen to this, they gave me the creative reign to do all the voices, all the sound effects, all the video. So here it is, the Founding Feathers. History like you've never heard it before.
One day you're soaring on a goose's wing. The next you're writing a nation's future. It was fate. I could just as easily have wound up on some Yankee Doodle's hat and you'd be calling me Macaroni.
It needs cheese.
But no, I was plucked from obscurity, given the job of a lifetime. And lucky for you, I wrote down every word of it. I can tell you how the Constitution was drafted. Ooh, that ink is cold. I've got the scoop on the framers and their vision. Not to mention the revisions. All this scratching, it's enough to give you a nervous breakdown. The Constitution, it's a big part of what makes this country great. Yes, you know Franklin and Hamilton and Madison. They're getting all the credit. But who's doing the work here? That's what I'm saying.
This is the quill story of the U.S. Constitution, a document that gave birth to our democracy. It protects our freedoms and helps us create the laws we live by. It even allows our president to sign the bill establishing Constitution Day every September 17th.
I know you've got your computers, your ballpoint clicky things, but remember, your right to express yourself started right here with the U.S. Constitution.
Chip, chip, and chitty-o and all that silly rot stuff. That was a fun project. And if you notice, I may have mis-ID'd the date. George W. Bush was the president back then, not Herbert Walker, but George W. So that's how far that project went back, and had a lot of fun with it. Fast forward up to just last year, Presbyterian College, located, I believe, northwest. It's in the northwestern part of South Carolina in the U.S. They had an ROTC training, ROTC school anniversary, their 100th anniversary, and they wanted a promo done, and they said, we want a kind of a movie trailer kind of sound. I didn't do the video editing on this, but I thought they did an outstanding job. It's just a short piece for the ROTC 100th anniversary celebration. Take a look. Dum vivimus servimus. While we live, we serve. Since 1919, the Presbyterian College Army ROTC New Highlander Battalion stands as one of the oldest ROTC programs in the nation. Producing some of the nation's top military generals, the Army ROTC program at PC fosters a command climate that trains and prepares cadets to serve as our country's future leaders. We salute you for 100 years of service. Yeah, I still kind of get chills every time I listen to the music they chose, because that was powerful. Lineage, service, legacy. This country is so rich in it. And so I was honored to be able to do the voice for the ROTC program. What I want to share now is something that my wife and I did. We had a video production company many years ago. This was a piece done in 1999. So 21 years ago. It was a reunion for some signal officers in the U.S. Army, primarily based at in Augusta at Fort Gordon, Georgia. And it was an hour-long documentary. We basically followed them around, all these amazing guys and ladies with their stories from World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and I think some from Desert Shield in the early 90s. But it was a phenomenal weekend, and we just we went around documentary style covering this event, and we came back and had, hours of footage to go through. The very first thing, the most impactful thing, was the beginning of the video, and I want to play that for you. I'll stop it after it's about 1 minute in. But it was this gentleman who I believe had served in World War II, and this again was filmed in 1999. And some of you probably know this poem. I don't know if it's called The Flag or The Colors, but when you hear it, just pay close attention. This man is passionate. I believe he served in World War II. He was a veteran, and this was his specific responsibility. This was something he did, I believe, meeting after meeting, where these people would come together. These former service people would come together and have these reunions, and it's called The Flag.
Here's to the red of it. There is not a thread of it, no nor a shred of it, in all the spread of it, from foot to head. But heroes' blood for it, face steel and lead for it, crushed blood shed for it, bathing it red. Here's to the white of it, thrilled by the sight of it, who knows the right of it, but feels the might of it through day and night. Womanhood's care for it, made manhood dare for it, and purity's prayer for it, keeps it so white. Here's to the blue of it, beauteous view of it, heavenly hue of it, star-spangled dew of it. Here's to the red of it. There is not a thread of it, no nor a shred of it, in all the spread of it, from foot to head. But heroes' blood for it, face steel and lead for it, crushed blood shed for it, bathing it red. Here's to the white of it, thrilled by the sight of it, who knows the right of it, but feels the might of it through day and night. Womanhood's care for it, made manhood dare for it, and purity's prayer for it, keeps it so white. Here's to the blue of it, beauteous view of it, heavenly hue of it, star-spangled dew of it, constant and true. Diadems gleam for it, state stands supreme for it, and liberty's beam for it, brightens the blue. Here's to the whole of it, stars, stripes, whole of it, body and soul of it, and all the roll of it with the sun shining through, hearts in accord for it, swear by the sword for it, thanking the Lord for it, the red, white, and blue.
Yeah, that one still gets to me too. Very powerful, and I went back and watched that video that we did. Like I said, it was about an hour long, and it contained dozens and dozens of interviews from these veterans. And it was just phenomenal. The service, the pride, the integrity, the boldness, the fact that, when you stop and think about the sacrifices that have gone into making this country what it is today, it needs celebrating. They need celebrating. We need to celebrate. And so I'm honored to be able to share that with you, and was honored to be able to collaborate and work with Tammy Hudson, who did an amazing job producing that video. Okay. What I want to do now, I'm going to jump back into the theme, but what I want to do is I want to kind of share. I don't want to go to the wrong camera here. I'm going to stay right here for now. I'm going to do what's called, I started doing this a couple of weeks ago. It seems like a couple of weeks ago. It really does. I did what was called a fun boxing, which is when I'd already unboxed something, but it was so cool I wanted to put it back in the box and pull it out again and share it with everybody. Hey, so what I got, what do we do? It's okay, Watson, it's just a box. When you get this, it's going to be something good. It's protected, right? So what I got, hopefully you can see that on the big camera. White reflection, there we go. These are AirPods, which I adore. These little babies, I really enjoy these things. Bluetoothed into my phone. I can listen. I can talk on the phone with no hands. They are really nice. I got those things. And sticking with the audio theme, these babies right here, Beyerdynamic DT770 Pros. These are the exact same headphones I've got on right now. Or as we say in the business, my cans. I got my cans on. These are cans. You didn't know that. Look it up. Anyway, your legend, your sound. Beyerdynamic. These are amazing headphones. And you're like, well, if these are working, why'd you buy a new pair? I have an objective to be able to duplicate everything I've got in my studio to create a travel rig. I have a travel rig, but I want to be able to duplicate it as closely as possible so the sound is as close as possible. So I'm hearing what I would normally hear in my studio. So I got these Beyerdynamics. Nothing wrong with these babies here, although these pads probably need to be replaced after about 3 years now I've had these. So I invested in some audio gear. Eventually I'll get another Sennheiser MKH416 microphone to work with on the road. Right now I unplug it to take it with me. I don't like to do that. I'll get another universal audio interface. Don't try to go through there. You'll knock something over, Watson. He's very big. He's like bull in china shop. So eventually I'll get the mic and the interface. I've already got the laptop, the Mac laptop. Okay, if things suddenly come tumbling down, it'll be because Watson could not navigate through properly. This is so awkward. Don't knock it down. Wow, I think he made it through there. The other thing that I got is an Allen. This is like a phone mount to put on a tripod. And the reason I got this little jewel here is because I began doing something about 2 or 3 months ago called Story Time with Troy. I put on a green cap, put on my green glasses, put on my green reading vest, and I would read stories that I found in my garage that used to be for my kids. And we would have nighttime story time or anytime story time, and I would do silly voices, and so they all have a special connection with me. And so I was trying to figure out a way to do this more efficiently, and so I was scanning the pictures from the storybook, and I was color correcting them, and I was cropping them and Photoshop, and it was just becoming a nightmare of trying to keep up with everything. So I abandoned that, and I thought, there's got to be a better way to do that. So what I did is I got what you're seeing here right there with my keyboard. Oh, my little creatures. Hey, are you angry? I'm happy. Okay. You guys just stay right there. Stay in frame. There you go. What I've got, the Allen device that I just showed you, is just out of frame. It's screwed on. My phone is bracketed into the Allen device, and it's connected via the lightning cable to a USB port. Let me pull this out here so you can see it. Right there. And that's connected into the other room, into my... oh, happy guy went away. There we go. There's Scoopy guy. Let me see. Let me pull this out. So the idea is that I'll be able to do this live, and I will not have to scan them. I can do it like this. Now, of course, the kids may not really want to look at me while I'm doing the story, so I can go full frame. And I can do it like this. And so I can... Muffin Mouse was in her house drinking strawberry tea when her friend Frankie Frog came by. "Do you want to come out to play?" he asked. So you get the idea. It can be all done with 2 cameras, basically my phone and the webcam, or sorry, the DSLR up here. And I could do it split screen, but chances are I probably won't. I'll probably just do it like that. So that little piece of equipment from Amazon was a very nice thing to find. And So I highly recommend it. It is called, pull it out again. It is called, and I'm not getting any, I don't have an affiliate link or anything into any of this stuff, but it is called the ALEN. And if you want, later I can put that link in the description of the video on the replay. But it's called the ALEN. I don't even know what it's called, but it's just a bracket for your phone to fit. And what I've got, actually where it's mounted, can I bring it up a little bit? There we go. You can kind of see it in the bottom of the frame. That's where it's bracketed right there. And there's the cable. And so what it's on a mic stand with a long arm that's extending across my desk. You can use whatever you want, but that seemed to work best for me. That could swing it down and out of frame. But I apologize, you couldn't hear me. What I wanted to do was this project here, which was the reading of the Declaration of Independence. And I'm going to close things out with this. Come back real quick after that if you're still with me. And if you have any Q&A, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts on any of this stuff, if whatever you want to do, I'm going to be here probably for another 10 minutes. It runs about 8 minutes, and it is the reading of the actual Declaration of Independence. And essentially, if you can't read the writing down at the bottom, the Declaration of Independence is one of the most important documents ever written. Too often, Americans celebrate the 4th of July, and we lose sight of the significance of what the Declaration in 1776 actually said and declared to not only the King of England, but to an entire world about the intentions of a freedom-seeking nation, the United States of America. Happy 4th of July, and may freedom ring. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government, and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens taken captive on the high seas to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our immigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity, and we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So there you go, the actual words to the 4th of July Declaration of Independence. I want to thank you for joining me for this VoiceOver Weekly Stew. And if you haven't finished your dish, go ahead and finish it now, if you brought a side dish. I want to extend a very heartfelt happy 4th of July to each and every person watching this, either via live or on the playback. I hope you have a very safe celebration. I hope that you are safe protecting your health and the health of other people around you, given this current situation that's going on. Drive carefully if you are out on the road. May God bless you. I pray that you'll be a blessing to others as you are blessed. And God bless America. Let's head out with some fireworks. See you guys later.